Parents of Reddit, what is most ducked up secret you are hiding from your children? My daughter was conceived at work, on airport property, in the back of a ducking Ford Focus, while we were waiting for a med flight to land. She knows nothing about this but tells me she wants to be a pilot when she grows up. If it makes you feel any better, my wife and I conceived our daughter in my sister's basement while my nieces and nephews watched VeggieTales upstairs. Whoa. Some of these got real deep. I am over here like my kids don't know where I stash my gummy bears. I am the child of a parent that hid something horrible until I was 27. One day when my parents has a domestic dispute, my dad called me just to get back at my mom. He said, "Do you want to know something about your whore mother? She slept with over 30 guys during our first 2 years of marriage." I just sat down and started stuttering. He said, "You know how people have always said you look different than the rest of the kids?" I said, "Yeah. That is because I am not your dad. Your mom slept with my best friend and you were conceived. Another thing, your brother, the one just younger than me, I am the oldest, belongs to my brother." My mom just bawled in the background without denying it. I just laughed. And then I went into 2 years of therapy. That she cannot have a relationship with her grandfather because he is a pedophile and I would never trust him. The rest of my family maintains a relationship with him and leans on me hard to open up communication because family comes first. They are absolutely right. My family does come first. Which is why my daughter would not ever have to have a relationship with him. Edit: he has molested, raped multiple members of my family and I only found out when I was pregnant with my daughter. Without going into too much detail, he also has a mental illness and I've been told that I need to let him have a relationship with my daughter because he is sick and could not help it. My dad cheated on my mother while she was going through cancer treatments. My mother asked for a divorce. He said, "Go and take the kids." Every Valentine's Day I would receive flowers from my dad and get so happy. My mom would smile and nod and get excited with me. I would call him and thank him. He never sent me flowers. It was my mom all the years. Same thing with birthday cards and Christmas gifts from him. They were never from him. My mom just put his name on them in similar handwriting. Went as far as writing return addresses on mail too. My mom was a superhero of a single parent. It was a secret until recently my mom told me. When she and my dad got divorced, things were very, very messy. And my dad would do shitty things to dodge paying for my care. He ended up owing my mom a couple $1,000s. And my mom was ready to sue. But instead of getting the lawyers involved, and because she knew my dad was not a healthy person to be in my life, she offered him a deal: keep the money, but relinquish custody officially. I did still get to see him if and when I wanted. But he would give up all legal rights as a guardian. Because he hated paying my mom that much. He took $2,000 over me. Not a life-changing, earth-shattering secret. It's just revealing to know my dad values money more than me. Before anybody casts judgment on my mom, my dad was and probably is a piece of human garbage who abused me and allowed me to be abused a few years after this. So I'm 1000% fine with my mom's decision. She is my favorite person in the world and every single day I'm so lucky to have her in my life. 3. My father found out when he was in his 40s that his father was not his biological father. His mother, my grandmother, literally cheated on her husband with a milkman. Adoptive parent with 3 kids, 2 of which are biological siblings and cousins. Found out a year after the adoption that the biological parents were half-siblings who shared the same dad. The bio parents found out after they had the first child and proceeded to have another. The kids are now 16 and 13 respectively and have zero clue that they're a product of incest. Unfortunately, their biological grandpa just passed away. So there very well could be a big reveal coming in the near future. That I've been changing every clock in the house on New Year's Eve to 3 hours early. At 9 p.m. we celebrate the new year. Then hang out for an hour. He thinks he breaking every rule and has a great time. Now that he is turning 11, this will never happen again. With phones and being somewhat smarter. Lol. I was the kid in the scenario. When I was like 12, my dad died of leukemia. He was never around much so I didn't see him often. But that was never the secret. I actually remember the day he took off and left us. Woke up one morning and there was a pile of new toys on the living room floor with a note for Mom. Anyway, he started coming around when he received the prognosis. We developed something resembling a positive relationship before he died. When he passed, it absolutely destroyed me. I still remember the funeral. I had to be dragged kicking and screaming out of the car because I didn't want to see it. In his will he left me his Cara Camaro that I was supposed to get when I turned 16. His parents fought tooth and nail to keep it from me. They were really shitty people. His entire side of the family was. And we eventually just told them to duck off and keep the damn thing. Fast forward about 15 years. I find out the guy that died was not actually my dad, he was my brother's dad. My real, biological dad has been living in the next town over 20 minutes from my house. My entire life. My entire family knew about it. Except for me. It was why my grandparents fought to keep the car. They knew I was not his son. I still do not know if he knew or not. But I assume so. My maternal grandmother has met him several times in my life. My mom said she never thought it was anything worth digging up. Said she intended for me to never find out. I've still never spoken to him. I know a name and an approximation of where he lives as of about 10 years ago. Beyond that, I know jack about the guy. Grandma said if I ever want to meet him, she would help me contact him. Don't know if I ever will. Posting here so when my kids are old enough to snoop they get a split second of excited expectation before they're greeted by my saying I do really enjoy having sex with their mother. I'm hiding out of things. I used to be a stripper for 10 years. Growing up in an abusive house. I partied hard and used to be part of Nick Montreal club scene. That I was kidnapped and taken to another country. There are a lot of things. Now I am just a boring accountant mom to everyone. No one has any clue what I've been through. Crazy what your kids do not know about you. My mom kept it a secret that the woman I was named after her mom. My grandma was stabbed to death by my uncle when my mom was 18. I always suspected my grandma had a tragic death because of how my mom would avoid talking about it. But I didn't know it was that tragic. I am the kid. Until I was 12 I thought that I knew my bio dad. That man left when I was around 6 and my mom started dating the man I call and accept as dad. I just thought people left and you moved on. On the way to cheerleading practice when I was 12 my grandma says, "You know Steve, isn't your real dad?" I said no. And that was it. I found out about 4 years later that my mom was having an affair with my bio dad. One night she was brutally beaten and raped. She called bio dad from the hospital and he said he was on his way. She never heard from him again. I am 30. She suspects that he arranged the rape. When I was 18 I got a message on FB that started off, "You don't know me but I know you. Don't delete this." It honestly sounded like one of those chain letters. Turns out it was my half-sister from bio dad. She and I are now FB friends but haven't met in person. I have no desire to meet bio. My actual dad that raised me is literally amazing. I could not have custom ordered a better father. My mom left him when I was 16 after cheating on him with a woman. He sat me down and told me that just because he and my mom broke up doesn't mean that him and I did. He continued to financially support me and never missed a beat. He met his wife 10 years ago and stepped in as dad to her then 5-year-old. He is so badass. I am the child. I recently found out about the murder-suicide attempt my great-grandmother tried to commit on her family. Her daughter, my grandmother, survived the attack and some years later moved to Canada as a teen and eventually got married and had my dad. Pretty haunting. My son was a product of rape. He just thinks I had really low standards in men at one point. That we don't go to bed the same time as they do. After reading a bunch of these, I feel pretty good that my most ducked up secret is that I eat most of their Halloween Easter parade candy when they're at school. I am the child 48F. But my father told me my mother was dead all throughout my childhood and everyone in the family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, stepmother, supported the lie. Not because my mother was on drugs or abusive, or a criminal, or even a bad person. Just because they had a huge argument one night and she went to stay with a friend. without me. So he decided she would never be allowed to be in my life again. Ever. He wrote her off. On my 18th birthday, she called our house and asked to speak with me. So, I found out the truth. My mom passed 15 years ago. My family had a bunch of stuff that they didn't go through, and that they just kinda left for me. About 10 years ago, when I was trying to downsize and get rid of stuff, I found medical documents that she had kept. Apparently, I was not an only child. She was pregnant with twins. I was the one that made it. My son's older half-sister molested him, and that's why we do not see them anymore. Waiting until we can get into a psych for support before we break it to him. Edit. He was 3 when it happened, so I was able to tell us, quite graphically, what was happening. The sister also admitted it and said she did it because it was funny and she liked to hurt him. DCP Child Protective Services became involved and investigated both families but could not find anything suspicious. We're telling him because we very strongly believe it is the right thing to do. We do not know how much he remembers and would much prefer to give him the coping skills now instead of possibly letting him disintegrate into a non-functioning adult with massive problems. Thank you so much for all the support. It is a horrible thing to deal with, but we are going to do everything in our power to love and support him. I am so sorry that so many of you had to go through similar situations. Capital I. I'm proud of every one of you for surviving and fighting. A colleague of mine has a friend who hid from her 8-year-old daughter that the 8-year-old would die within a few years because of a terminal illness she got. The reason we do not talk to Uncle Jimmy is because he molested 8 students while he was a teacher for 20 years, went to jail, and is now treated as if he is a leper in our city. My wife and I each have a child from a previous marriage. Both of our ex-spouses were abusive cheaters. Both children still adore and idolize their other parent, and we just keep smiling and nodding. This probably isn't the type of thing OP was asking. But it is a secret that we will maintain for years. I am working out how to explain that the chicken we eat is the same as the kind of chickens that live on a farm. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.